Welcome back to the farm for another project, guys. If this is your first time, I hope you enjoy. So I'm out here enjoying the newest members to the farm here, which is these little kittens here. They're only about coming up on 4 weeks old. It's one of my favorite parts about having a farm is we've always got some kind of baby animals, whether it be cats or goats or sheep or livestock dogs. It's the best part of having a farm is just all the animals and getting to enjoy them. Well, once we get done enjoying this little guy, we're gonna head into the shop and let's show you what we're gonna be working on today. Say goodbye, time to go to work. So we just got an order for one of those wedding boxes where kind of people put little gifts and things in. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to use this really pretty piece of maple. Now, I found something that has some really good character to it. You can kind of see what almost looks wavy right here. We got some beautiful character in some of these knots. So the first thing I ended up doing is this board does have a little slight bow here and a little bow here. So the first thing I did was lay this out as what pieces do I want to cut on the board, and then we can run each piece individually through the planer. So I know that the piece with the most character, I want that to be on the top because that's going to be what everybody's going to see. Then the next piece of character, I want the one on the front, since that'll be the front of the box again, but everybody's going to be noticing. So the ones that still are beautiful pieces of wood, just don't quite have that character, is going to be the sides, the base, and the back. So now that we have it all laid out, let's break this thing down to a little bit more usable pieces. We'll get rid of this live edge, and let's start making a box. Okay, so now they're all broken down a little bit better sizes here. We're going to set the lid aside and really just focus on the box. So the first thing I'm going to do is run these all through my joiner and through my planer to kind of get them at least the same thickness, and so I have a nice square edge, and then we'll cut them all down the size. And then we can come back once the box is glued up and we'll focus on doing the engraving on the top of the lid and the underside of the lid before we put the whole thing together. So I got this real simple jig that I made for cutting my 45s. It already has a 45 here. What I like to do is put whatever stock I have, butt it up against this, and then I take this T-track and I screw it down nice and tight on whatever size boards I'm going to be using, so then there's no deflection from the wood. So I always make sure I get a really nice 45. And you can see here, it makes it easy for me to line it up because I can use the very edge of the board, put it right here towards the very end of the 45, and then I just adjust my blade accordingly. And then I can make sure that all my 45s are exactly the same. So let's get all these cut and we'll get the box glued up. Okay, so now that we have all of our 45s cut, we're ready to go ahead and kind of get the basic layout of the box. Now, one thing I do with my boxes, and I didn't make this up, I believe I saw this first on the Wood Whisperer, which if you haven't seen that guy's videos, if you're looking at woodworking, the guy is just incredible and just a wealth of knowledge. Definitely swing by his channel and check it out. But you put your cut at 45 and go just a little bit past that so that any imperfections you have on the joint is actually on the inside of the box and not on the outside. It's a genius idea. I use it now for all my boxes. So we're gonna go ahead and get this glued up. Now I've decided I'm gonna add some spline joint to this. So I'm gonna kind of dig through whatever scrap wood I have left, and I think I have some pieces of black walnut, which will make some just gorgeous little spline joints we're gonna add to this as well. So while we're kind of digging that out, we're gonna fire up the laser and we're gonna go ahead and get the lid engraved. So let's go ahead and get this thing finished up so we can finish this project up. All right, so we're getting ready to make the black walnut splines. You have to excuse the lamb in the background. We got one lamb getting ready to get sold, and he's not happy that he's by himself. So normally what I'll do is, because I can't make the splines thin enough, because I didn't want to do a real thick splines, I just want little thin ones for this box here. So my planer won't go thin enough that actually be the thickness of my blade. So what I'll do is I actually use the painter's tape with super glue, like I do with my CNC, and I'll just put this on another board that I know is already planed on both sides, so it's nice and flat. So then I can get these the thickness that I need. Since I was doing that with a black walnut, I thought, well, you know what? Let's do a black walnut accent for the lid. So I do have just a small piece of black walnut left from another project. So I went ahead and I planed it down so it's the same thickness as this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a black walnut border that's going to match the splines. Hopefully that'll add a little extra character. And then once we get that, so it's all set, we'll go ahead and get it on the laser and we're going to get the engravings done. So I got the little pieces of black walnut cut here, and I do think if you kind of look at those two contrasting colors, I don't know if it's going to show up, but I think when I get a finish on it, that's really going to make that border pop. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get these all cut the size. Now these are just a hair tall, but what I want to do is I haven't done the final sanding on the lid yet because I still need to do the laser engraving. So what I'm going to do is get these all glued up, we'll let it sit for a couple hours, then I'll come back and I'll do a final sanding to get everything so it's nice and perfect and level. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to engrave the top and the bottom of this lid. Now we're getting ready to cut out all of our spline joints here. You can actually see this one broke, so I'm going to have to recut that. But what I want to do is cut all the other ones out first, and then we'll make sure that this side is nice and flush. That way we can make sure as we clean that out, everything still lines out perfect. But if you look at these, I think that black walnut is going to be a beautiful accent, and I really think adding that black walnut to this lid is really going to make it pop once I get a finish on it. That black walnut, I think, is really going to complement that maple. And I don't know how well it's going to show up, but look at all that beautiful character once I get some finish on it. This lid, I think just having that little border is really going to make a really nice difference to kind of seal the whole thing together. So let's take it real slow and careful here. We're going to use the pole saw. We'll cut all these out, and then we'll re-tap out and refinish up that last little spline joint. And then we're going to go ahead and start the engraving on the lid. And this is always the most stressful part of these, is making sure that it's exactly dead centered, because otherwise everything's going to look off and then everyone will have to start all over again. So what I'll do is I'll actually frame this 3 or 4 times just so I can watch it, make sure exactly where the laser is going to go is essentially centered. Okay, you can see my little air piece here is kind of dangling around, but I want you guys to be able to watch this engraving, so I took that off so I can put the cover back on. So I think that's pretty good. Let's give it a go and keep our fingers crossed. Well, I'm going to go ahead and put some finish on the lid here to really see if I made a good choice here going with this black walnut for the border. So let's kind of see how this comes out here. So far, really happy with that. Oh man, that finish really makes that maple pop and that black walnut around the border with the laser engraving. I think that turned out pretty stunning. I think that was definitely a good choice. I think that's awesome. I think they're really going to love that. We'll go ahead and let this soak. Alright, so now we're getting ready to install the base. I already kind of labeled the numbers here, what I think should fit. I've done a real quick test fit. I did a little bit of sanding on it to make sure it's going to drop in there. So now we're going to put some glue on it, and hopefully the box will just drop right on top of it. Then put a couple of clamps so that we can come back and finish this thing up. Okay, so last night off camera, just kind of last minute, I decided to add another strip of black walnut just to the bottom. So now we have an accent piece of the black walnut on the base, on the splines, and on the lid. I'm kind of thinking that's going to really kind of tie everything together and kind of make it look nice and kind of even top and bottom. Right now we're getting ready to work on the part that I'm the most nervous about, and that's going to be cutting the slot for everybody to put all their envelopes and everything in here for this wedding box. So what I ended up doing with this is, you can see here, I used a piece of straight edge of maple that I already had, and then I took my palm router and I put my 3/8" flat cut. What I did is I laid it right up against this and just barely touched this on both ends. So now I'm going to take my 3/8 drill bit and I'm going to drill that down in each one, so that way I have a start and a stop point that I know I can go through with that straight edge. And I'm hoping that's going to help with some of the tear out, because I know that that drill bit's going to put a nice clean hole, so that way as I come through with the router I have a little nice space to stop. So hopefully I won't get too much tear out on the maple. I'm actually thinking after I drill these holes I might put a little piece of painter's tape across here and see if that'll help. So keep our fingers crossed that this goes well, because if this blows out or chunks out right now, the whole thing's a scrap job and I'll have to start all over again. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed here. Alright, so that worked out pretty well. A little hard work for my little palm router there, considering this is almost 1/2 inch thick, so it was kind of probably a little overkill for the palm router, but it ended up working. Just had to go nice and slow. So now I'm going to take this round file and the square file and kind of clean up these edges just a little bit, just kind of give it a little bit of a taper, and then we're going to work on getting the lid installed. Alright, so now we're getting ready to install the lid. So we have the cool engraving here on the top, and then when they open it, they added a quote on the inside. And I'll tell you what, the character of that maple just really pops with all the engravings in there. I think they're really going to enjoy that. And I think that black walnut really kind of gives a really nice accent around the border. Now, I got these cute little kind Kind of almost looks like little vintage, little hardware we're going to put on here. And then I also did get a little cable stop. So that way as they lift this, I'm going to have the lid go just past 90 degrees and have that cable so it stops so they can actually see the quote, but they never have to worry about it going too far and breaking the hinges or having a chance of damaging anything on the box. So now we'll get the hinges done first, and then we'll get everything else lined up, and then we're going to stain this whole thing and really finish this thing up because I'm excited to see how it's going to look. So this is always every woodworker's favorite part, is adding the finish so you really kind of make the colors of the wood come out. So we're just going to be using just some simple mineral oil, which is going to be more than enough, because I'll tell you what, that mineral oil is just going to make this maple really come to life. Such a nice simple finish, but man, it really brings out the colors in this maple. And here we are, my first wedding box all finished up. Tell you what, that mineral oil really makes the character of that maple pop, and that black walnut I think is just a really nice accent. So if we open up the hardware here, you can see on the underside they have the quote here facing up, and I put the cable on it to keep the lid from going too far. I don't want a chance breaking those hinges, but again, that character kind of continues on down on the inside of the box. I really hope they enjoy it because I enjoyed making it, and I wish this couple a lifetime of happiness. Well, thanks for joining me for another video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to give a thumbs up. Feel free to share. If you have any questions or comments about how I put the box together or anything else that went on in this process, please put that down below. I'll do what I can to answer it for you. If you really enjoyed this project, you want to join me for all my other projects, all my other ventures, consider hitting that subscribe button. Again, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you around.